States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Ernest Ringo.
Here.
Dr. Boyd.
Here.
Scott Friels.
Here.
David Medeiros.
Here.
Shirley Brewer.
Here. Is everybody present? Okay, thank you. We have informal project review now. Is there anybody that wants to bring something forward for an informal discussion? Okay, Mr.
See you.
Vaughn.
Ladies and gentlemen, actually,
I'll skip the formalities.
I just...
Public comment?
I think that's supposed to be free.
Actually, there's a public comment first.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
public comment. Is yours a public comment or something else?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, but CMAP can't.
Yeah. Let's see. Make sure I get this thing in right. Good, got it right, I think. Okay. Let's see. First up, do we want to do public comment first, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone for public comment? Sorry.
Nobody? Okay. Informal project review. Anybody for informal project review? Oh,
No, not yet.
okay.
Okay. Madam Chair, if I may, there is an additional project that just came about within the last day or so
Okay.
that staff would just like to probably include on our list of projects in the discussion items. It's kind of the same kind of thing. The one thing it does have in common is that it is on a historic property. There's just a minor alteration. Once again, before I begin, though, I'd like to pass out a copy of the Historic Resources Preservation Ordinance in case,
You didn't get enough copies?
I just want to make sure, because I know we talked about it last meeting, but I just want to make sure everyone's informed. So I'll go ahead and just pass them around, if that's okay.
Okay.
This is right out of the zoning ordinance, folks.
Okay.
All right, and it's for your information. Happy reading. Okay, and the project I'm passing around, I want to keep my original, I don't want to lose it. Okay.
Thank you.
The project is located at 207 Alameda. I got one. Or 207 The Alameda, I should say. Directly across the street from the soccer fields. Right up the street from the Windmill Market, and kind of like another door over from the fancy building, just off of downtown. The property owner's name is Tilly Todd, and she wishes to do a re-roof of the project. And the house, based on, in your packet, I did include a copy of the picture of the front of the house, and also the building permit components that were turned into staff, and the historic inventory report. Based on that information, out of the historic inventory, the house was built, appeared to be in 1860. However, based on talking to the property owner, she has information that actually makes the building quite a bit younger, like around 1940-ish or so, and she showed me some paperwork. But once again, that's probably for a later review. But either way, though, either information, the house does qualify for a historic...
I don't have any pictures, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. Sorry, you didn't get any pictures?
Oh, that part.
Yeah.
On the application.
Is this the one? Let's see. Did you get this one? It should be at the back.
I got it.
Very back, folks.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, very back of the packet, folks.
All right. Yeah, I know where it's at.
Okay. Anyway, but either way, though, whether it be 1940 or 1860, still the house falls within the 45-year category, making it a potential historic resource. Anyway, but what she wishes to do is do a re-roof. And in the application packet, it would just be a switch from composition mineral to composition mineral, basically like-to-like material. Based on further research and discussion amongst staff, even though would be considered a minor alteration and homes that are quite a bit younger than 45 years, there's no need to actually re-roof permits don't even necessarily go to planning. They just go right to building and so forth. I hardly ever see re-roofs. But the fact that this is a potential historic resource, kind of like, we have to treat it a little bit in a different way. So if the board would like to have staff proceed with this, With the permitting process, we can do that. If you'd like us to return at a future meeting with more information or any questions you may have, we can do that as well. So that's why I wanted to include this. The reason why I'm putting this on the informational project review category is that the permit was turned into staff on Friday afternoon. I got it on Monday, and then I met with the property owner on Monday afternoon, and then I figured I'll just, put it on the board. I let her know what I plan to do. She understands, and is just awaiting information at this time. So anyway, that's why I wanted to put it on there, just because we have an upcoming meeting, and I just didn't want to wait another month or so.
Okay, so you basically want to know if we approve or not of the roofing materials that she wants to use?
Of the proposed scope of work, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there any discussion at this point? Is everybody?
I have no problem with it. I think
Okay.
putting a new roof, it will protect the aged building.
That's right.
Which is all part of San Juan Bautista.
Yeah, if it needs a roof, let's get it on there, sure.
David, you have anything?
No, I have a question. Are we going to check to make sure, as far as the roof, the structure itself is sound for a roof and things like that? We're doing inspection
It's all,
as part of the
As part of the process?
as part of the process in here, right?
yeah, Madam Chair, through you to the Commissioner. Yes, sir, that is correct. As part of the building permit review process, it does go through, it is subject to inspections during the construction process.
Okay.
And based on the statement that I received from the property owner, it is kind of a need, because the last time they did a re-roof was more than 20 years ago, back in the early 90s. So it is kind of in need of, kind of the basic
Well,
upkeep.
we want it to stand up, so.
Well, I just want to make sure that whatever goes on stays there for a little while longer, and we can...
Yeah, they have to follow certain,
Yeah.
they have to follow the fire codes and the
Yeah.
building codes.
Okay, that sounds fine.
So if the board members have no other questions or any other concerns, with that, staff will go ahead and proceed with this and moving on to the building permit review process prior to permit issuance.
Sounds good. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
I think it's a good process, speeds up the
Yes.
getting something done, as opposed to having a full public hearing to come up with the same answer.
Yes, thank you. Is there any more informal project reviews that we need to know about? Okay, so we're going to move on to the action items, approve affidavit of posting. So does anybody have anything?
All good, move to approve it.
Second.
You move to approve it, and Mr. Franco seconds it, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody say nay? The ayes have it. It's approved. Okay, discussion items. Review and discuss a proposed minor alteration that includes repainting the building located at 308 3rd Street. This building is located within the 3rd Street Historic District and is zoned mixed use. The building is listed in the city historic inventory. No changes to the existing building colors are proposed, okay? So does anybody have any questions about this particular project?
I'm trying to, 308, is that right?
308 3rd Street.
There's photos here, Scott. There's photos of
Land
everything.
office.
It's item 5A, Commissioner Friels.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's right there in your packet. This one and the next item
This
are in your
one is right
packets.
next to the info.
Oh, okay, that's what I figured it was, right
Yeah.
there.
And they just want to paint it the same way, kind of off-white.
Same colors, and also, first off, Madam Chair, if I may,
Sure.
I'll just go ahead and just state my name and information for the record. Todd Kennedy, city staff. I've been working with the applicant. He's been, really good to work with and provided a lot of information. We've had some pretty thorough discussions on this. He also provided a paint sample, if anyone wants to take a look at what this is. And it's going to be, the sides of the building will continue to be an acoustic white, which is this color right here. The trim would be what's called a deep garnet, if I pronounce that right. Yeah, and which is like a reddish color. And and with the trim on the front. And that's what the picture's in the...
So it's only 2 colors?
It'd actually be altogether 3. There's like a grayish color as part of the trim. Now, one thing I do want to point out to the board, the side opposite, and I want to say this for the record, the side opposite of the open lot is brown currently. And I think one of my pictures in there, but it's hidden away behind a fence. Part of the repainting job, what staff has been informed of, is that brown side will be painted the acoustic white to match the surrounding sides. So based on walking around the site, taking a look, the painting job was...
This little piece right there.
Yeah. The paint job was done probably quite a while ago. This new paint job will keep the building looking good. There's also a reddish spot on the top of the roof right there above the porch that will disappear as part of this new paint job.
Okay.
And no other scopes of work are proposed with this minor alteration.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussions?
And also,
Commissioners here? Well, I think that would be an improvement, and I like the fact that they're actually going to use 3 colors.
yeah. Also, for further information, we do have the applicant here if you have any questions for him or staff together.
Okay, would you like to step up and say anything, Paul? Let's meet you at least.
Jeff Rosen, ROSEN,
Okay,
son of Phyllis Veruti, born in San Juan Batista, 1924.
okay.
For what that's worth. The chocolate brown color was part of the 1990 rebuild of it, when it was taken down to parts and pieces, and a slab concrete. The concrete slab was actually poured where there had been none. The building was built and old existing siding put on. They ran out of siding, so the side that faces Mrs. B's store behind that fenced alley was painted the chocolate brown. I don't know why.
Okay, that's probably what they had on hand.
But once again, a white building with a red facade, and we'll cover up that faded part that used to say land office.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
That's great. Okay, Ms. Monk, would you like to make a comment?
Also, staff, if I may, just kind of comment on this. Once again, Todd Kennedy, city staff. Typically, repaintings of this sort, it's a minor alteration as defined in the Historic Resources Ordinance that I passed out earlier. Repaintings actually do not require building permits. After talking with our staff internally, it's just that in this case it requires a minor alteration, so that's why it's coming before you. Also, it's in the 3rd Street Historic District, so we just figured just make sure it's being reviewed properly.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
If we had a color change, we'd be discussing quite a bit. But since there's no color changes,
Yeah.
and basically, has anyone ever seen that brown fence? It's behind an
And we didn't notice it until
It's behind an
tonight.
8-foot wall, basically, you can't see it, so I see this as an improvement all around,
Yeah,
just to keep that building from deteriorating.
yes, I agree with that. Okay, any other comments? Okay. So,
So basically we have, it's not an action item, so
it's just a discussion item.
It's just-
so I think consensus, unless somebody really has some reason to pull it up on a future agenda.
I don't.
No, I don't think anybody does. Okay, it looks like we're in consensus with that. Okay.
Sooner the better.
Yeah, that's the way of putting it, yeah.
Good luck trying to keep your paint wet enough in this weather.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, item B, review and discuss a proposed minor alteration that includes construction of 2 porches on a house located at 14 Lang Street. The house is located at the low-density R1 zoning district that was built in 1920. The house is listed in the city historic inventory. Should I invite the owner forward first to comment, or did you want to go?
Yeah, I'd like to, staff, just to give a quick overview of this project. This one is a little bit more of a physical alteration. It includes 2 porches. Actually, one porch is already existing along the side, and the new porch that will be starting from scratch is in the front. And it's, once again, it's a historic house, listed in the inventory, built in 1920. There's currently no porch in the front. Now, it would encroach, going into the front setback. However, one of the pieces of information that I probably should have included in the packet, but I quoted it in the staff report, and I actually have a copy of the section of the zoning code right here. And it's kind of an interesting one under item I. And this is where, it can be probably, if we want to kick it up into the planning commission when we go to that section of our hearing tonight, we can talk about it. The zoning is R1, low-density residential. Typically, they require a 20-foot front setback. However, there is an exception under section 11-04070 of the zoning code. And I'd like to just go ahead and pass it around, this section of the zoning ordinance right here. And also, I don't know if I made multiple copies of the pictures I took when I was out in the field. I do apologize for that. But since I've been out to the site already a few times, I can pass around the pictures if anyone just wants to take a look. And just see what the site looks like. Anyway, Mr. Skelton? Yeah, just good. I'm sure I got the name right. Okay. Mr. Skelton and I have been working together on this, and once again, this is another building permit, just like the first time in the informal project review section of our meeting. This does require a building permit, and it went to me as part of the review process for planning and zoning and setbacks. But I kind of got off on a tangent, so let me go ahead and bring it back to what I was just talking about the zoning section here. In item I of section 11-04070, required yards, in any district where 50% or more of the lots on one side of any block have been improved with buildings other than accessory structures, the required front yard for lots located on that side of the block shall be a depth equal to the average of the actual unobstructed front yards of the lots so improved, but not more than the minimum front yard specified for the district. When computing the average depth of the lots, the actual unobstructed front yard of each lot shall be deemed to be equal to the minimum front yard specified for the zoning district unless a lesser depth has been recognized as lawful by the planning commission. This subsection shall have control over any other front yard requirements set forth in this code to the extent such other requirements are inconsistent with this subsection. So what that means is, and the way I was able to interpret it, based on my interpretation, is that this existing property and the properties up and down the street have setbacks less than 20 feet. That's required in the R1 zone right out of the zoning code. These structures were all built right around the same time, what I was able to determine. And other ones have front porches too, what I was able to determine in the pictures. Based on doing review of the site plan and the information gathered from the applicant, this porch will be equal in terms of the depth of the surrounding porches up and down the street. So this, to me, what I was able to determine as staff, I should say, is that this would be an improvement to the property. It would be a porch. In terms of a design, the pitched roof would match the existing pitched roof on the house, as well as the porch around the side too. So that porch is already existing, but it'll be retrofitted and improved with walls taken out and a pitched roof. The front porch is the actual physical extension. Staff was able to determine it as a minor alteration because based on improvement, rehabilitation, but when you read over the definition of a major alteration, expansion of major features is called out. What staff was able to determine based on, or able to make the call and review this, is that this doesn't appear to be a expansion of a major feature. This just it's just a small addition that complements the actual structure. And also in our site design guidelines, porches are encouraged. They are, they help with the property and all that. And after walking the site and seeing it, it looks like a very reasonable alteration. So that's why staff believes this is a good thing, but we just want to take it by the board just to see if that's okay. Because, it is an extension.
Anybody have any concerns on the commission? Any questions? Do we want to have Mr.
I think
Spencer?
Keith needs to make sure it's on private property.
You want to make sure it's on private property?
That's what you'd be looking for, make sure it's on private property.
And that qualifies, right?
Actually, after walking the site and after seeing where the posts are going to be that are flush with the steps out there, it's going to be on private property. And it would have a depth of roughly, after doing a measurement from the fence, which is roughly, can be determined where the property line is, because the sidewalk is on the outside, then you have the curb into the street. The fence is right there, and then the property, there's like a 5.5-foot difference right there. And that is roughly the same distance of the surrounding porches up and down on that same side of the block.
Good question. So the one on the side, at the side of the house, there's currently a door there, or is it a door with steps, or the exit is there already existing opening there?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, there is. Madam Chair, through you to Commissioner Friels, that is correct, sir. There is a door right there, an existing opening. The only thing that's happening with that porch, and that does meet setbacks. There's a 12-foot setback I was able to determine out there. And that one is just going to be improved. It's just that the roof is going to be taken off, reconstructed, so it has a pitched roof, and the wall on the outside will be taken out. So that way it provides more of a cooling effect when you walk inside.
That's much nice. Okay, that's what I was just curious. Make sure the setback too with your fire code violation. There we go. Thank you.
Would the owner like to make any comments?
No, not particularly. Trying to project to a T. The whole thing came about just trying to improve the look at the front of the house and invite people to the front door. Because right now people walk up, they're not sure where to go.
Okay, does this happen on Halloween in particular?
No, we can go there. It's quite nice.
Okay, so any other concerns from anybody on the commission?
No, I think if there's any changes to this particular existing building, it wouldn't be that much of a change, and it wouldn't take away from the existing building, even if it's a historical building. So I'm saying it would be an enhancement, and I'm for it.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Brewer? No. Okay, Commissioner Friels, do you have any other questions?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Friels? Okay.
Madam Chair, we do have somebody for public comment.
Okay, let's go ahead and have somebody for public comment. Ms. Vaughn, come on up here.
Cara Vaughn. Yes.
Cara Vaughn, thank you.
Follows the...
Yeah, I think it's a good project, but I did want to point out some things. First of all, I want to compliment our planner for reviewing every project that comes in and checking it against the inventory of historic places. I think that's really wonderful, and also the Historic Resource Ordinance, he's applying that, as well as our design guidelines. So I think we're making a lot of progress in our city and doing it right. In your packet, you will see the inventory sheet, and it does call out the character-defining features of the property, and one of them is the pyramidal roof. And I think even with the porch, that roof shape will be retained. So,
Yeah, according to...
And again, I think you may have a copy of the Secretary of the Interior standards for additions.
Yes, we do.
And you should be looking at that and applying it and making sure that what the applicant is trying to do falls within those guidelines as well. So, I think it is going to be an improvement. There are some trees in front. Are they going to come out?
No, they need to get trimmed up. They exploded this year.
Okay.
It exploded.
There's a beautiful fruit tree out front. All right, that's all I wanted to say, is that I think we're really making a lot of progress
Okay.
with the Historic Resources Board.
Well, we thank you for that comment.
And thank you very much, Mrs. Fogg. Appreciate that. But if nothing else, if the board has nothing else, then staff can go ahead and move this thing forward first thing tomorrow. Move this thing into the building process.
Let's do that. I hope it's cool enough to do this. Any other comments? We don't have any other concerns, okay. All right. So we'll get into the comments. Historic Resources Board members, are there anything? I think we had a comment.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any comments? Okay.
Quick question.
Sure.
Looks like we found with Mrs. Todd's building, it looks like we kind of found a date snafu.
As to when it was built?
Yeah, we kind of, since you've been digging into these things, I'm sure you're keeping record on that. Now we have to figure out how do we go about re-recording that correct information, so that way we get it right.
Is there, if I respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. First off, as you can see in the inventories, documents that I provided in those cases, it was done in 2006, the last time the inventory was done. And if that's the case, and if Mrs. Todd has documents, I didn't collect any, she just showed me the stuff, and I showed her what I had, she was familiar with it. Anyway, that aside, that's all subject to when we do the next inventory, because part of the historic resources ordinance talks about a systematic, upkeep of this inventory. Trying to find the words. So anyway, with that, and that was 12 years ago, the last time it was done, so we should probably consider at some point, and myself and, members of our Historic Society are talking right now about doing a workshop for for staff and the board alike, and members of the public, and part of that, we should probably look into having another inventory done and upkeep, and making sure that everything is up to speed and so forth, so that way it's an ongoing process. So, because 12 years is a good amount of time for things to go back, so if that, if things like that are coming to light, then we got to get them sorted out to make sure that what the property owner has and what the city has are matching.
So we don't have any specific dates as to when to do this, like we do the census every 10 years or something?
Right now, that's still in the works, so we should have some more information.
It takes them some time, and we're finding, it seems like we're digging up new documentation every year. It seems like every time somebody
turns around,
turns over their house or sells it, and all of a sudden, here's a whole box of stuff from Grandpa, and it's like, oh, wow, that building wasn't even there. It just says it right here. So, all the stuff I'm going through for my grandfather's stuff, I have 18-gallon totes of documentation, and it's taken me forever to get through it. But eventually I'll get through it, and I'm finding a lot of great new information, so.
So, we're going to put something like regular inventories on our...
Yeah, like we do it maybe more of a regular basis, whether it be 5, 6, 7 years or whatever the case may be, something like that, so that way it's just an ongoing process and we just have it on our calendars.
I think that's a good idea. Okay.
I got a question, reading this material for the standards. One of the questions I have is, okay, so now you've got the historical building and you've found a means to add to that. And so you go ahead and it's a perfect match for that particular historical building. What happens to that portion of the building after 50 years?
It becomes part of the historic building.
So it becomes not just an addition, but it becomes the building, historical building.
Yes. Because, how many of these homes around here have added porches?
Right.
They were farmhouses and then they bumped them out, and However, did learn too that it's something that has to be removed if possible without damage to the building.
Right.
If it's deemed on the National Registry.
Right.
So you can't just go sinking 6-inch
On the
screws
National
on the
Registry.
National Registry.
Okay.
So again, if you're
That's
at the end of
learned that from
50,
Tim.
I was going to say at the end of 50 or 60 years, now you're thinking for a new addition. So what is it going to match? I guess you got, it's going to be interesting. Because historically, but if you're saying that no matter what, every 50 years, you're going to have a new historical structure as a whole. So that's what we got to look forward to eventually.
I don't think I'll be here.
If we're still here.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm too worried about that. I'm surprised I made it this far, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Thank you very much. Good question. Okay, is there any report from the city manager?
Madam Chair, City Manager is not present tonight, so
She
that's
didn't
been...
leave you with any information?
No, ma'am.
I bet she skipped town. Okay, is there any report from city planning that?
Yes, ma'am,
All right.
I have a report, and it's another project, and don't worry, it's just an FYI, just to kind of brace yourselves that we may have something coming down the pipes here real soon. It is a property that staff is working on. I'm passing out pictures and a copy of the inventory statement that, that I created, or, what we talked about earlier. The subject property is at 70 McElhenney Street. It is right across the street from the Valero gas station on that open lot right there. There's an old house on there that's pretty much hollowed out. Let me pass the pictures around, or pass the packets around for you.
Is this the Chalmers house?
Let's see.
Chalmers it is. I can see his confirmation over here.
Yeah, there you go.
It is definitely hauled out.
Okay, staff was out in the field yesterday. That's why this is on down in the comments right there. And I just wanted to brief the board that action does need to be taken. Our building official, with both our building staff and myself, are all out in the field. We met with the property owner. We are talking options. The property owner wants to say, what can we do with this building? Because it's so far gone, what can we do? And there are signs that appears to be asbestos as well as some other things, but we don't know that for a fact. We are just, based on looking at it, that's where we're kind of making these preliminary determinations. What we're saying is that we might be visiting this at a future commission or a future board meeting. And we want to discuss options with the property owner, because this is one of up to 3 structures on the property that I was able to observe yesterday when I was out there.
Right.
2 dwelling units that appear to be. They appear to be kind of an older, condition that need to be improved. But we would like to come up with options for this property owner to, improve the property in any which way, but this thing does appear to be a possible danger out there. And also the property owner, and we also see visible traces of activity, vandalism taking place inside the building. It's also probably unsafe to walk in there, so the fact that people are getting in there and putting graffiti on the walls, that's already a concern. So we do need to take some kind of action on this. And like I said, our building official is concerned. The notice of abatement that I included in the packet is the closest thing that staff has come before, and this is before before current staff is here. But for some reason, I can't determine why, this notice of abatement never made it to the council agenda. So I'm not sure why.
I see it was last August.
So I just wanted to provide the board with as much documentation and evidence that we can gather at this time.
Well, let me say I appreciate your transparency. Did Ms. Monk want to make a comment?
Yeah.
You come on up.
Yeah.
Discussion item?
It's not really a discussion.
This property has a long history. Mr. Chalmers was an architect, and he designed many of our national trust properties here in town. I understand he also designed St. Francis Retreat, the one that burned down. The owner has done nothing to preserve that property. This is called demolition by neglect, and he should not be rewarded. And that's why that former abatement notice didn't go anywhere, because members of the community, members of the Historical Society made a big stink about it. In the past, we did have a development proposal. The house was going to be completely restored and made part of this larger commercial project. And it was going to become like a community art gallery as part of a larger commercial.
How long ago was that?
8 years.
How many?
About 8.
About 8.
8 years ago.
When I moved in,
It was the Todd, whatever his name is.
Yeah, he was also going to do an adult. He was also going to do an unassisted adult.
Yes, it was going to be cooperative living, a cooperative living development. And then there was going to be a B&B out front and some other commercial buildings. It was a whole project for that entire property. The property was supposed to be mothballed, which the owner never did, and there was, of course, no enforcement here in town to deal with that. I happened to be on the Historic Resources Board when we first went out. We had an engineer, we had an architect. Everybody went out there and took a really close look at the property. It had an extremely solid foundation. No issues with the foundation, but it needed to be mothballed and preserved because that was the architect's home apparently, and he's a very important person here in town. And I can bring you some articles about demolition by neglect, but there are other cities that do not reward owners for allowing a historic property to get into that kind of shape.
Can you email me some of those?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
It's also on the California Office of Historic Preservation website. In the right-hand margin, there's a whole thing for historic preservation commissions, and there's a big section in there on demolition by neglect.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm kind of, upset about this.
I don't blame you, especially
because he's not done anything to preserve that property. And maybe there's asbestos, maybe there isn't, but an architectural historian needs to go out there and assess the property to see, if it's salvageable and what can be done to preserve it. Because there are options to preserve the property as far as I know.
Okay.
Those are my comments in this discussion item.
Okay.
We really can't go too deep into this because it isn't on the agenda.
It isn't on the agenda, so I would like to put it on a future agenda. Is that what we're going to ask for?
Sure.
I think we need to put this on a future agenda, okay?
Yeah, Madam Chair, yes, we can definitely put it on the next month's.
Full-out discussion with possible action.
Yeah, let's do it we can do an action item, and like I said, we'll have a sit-down with Ms. Falk, and we'll go through, discuss the evidence with our building official. Our city manager is ready to take action on this, so we do need to, come up with a plan on this one way or another and gather as much evidence as we can. So anyway, let's plan for next month to bring this back as an action item, and
Are we going to also discuss the options that you...
No, like I said, can't talk about it now, but we'll put this down as discussion/action. So if we can talk all night, or we can act when we finish talking.
Right.
But keep in mind that there is a price to pay for destroying neglect of a historical building. There should be. Significant.
Yes, there should be.
So when that project comes up for development, there's a price to pay.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your input.
And that's the purpose why I wanted to bring this to the board's attention then, because I wasn't sure. We did have discussion. We did have a sit-down with our Historic Society before about this. We were trying to figure out what to do, but then we met with the applicant, staff did, and then we went out to the site and took a look and discussed these findings, and it was pretty appalling. It was like, what the heck? And so, anyway, since the board meeting was tonight, and that was yesterday's inspection, that's why we're here tonight to discuss this.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else that you have to report?
Nothing, no ma'am, nothing more.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Let's move on to Planning Commission. Okay.
Here you go, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Your pictures. Here you go, Jeff.
Sacred. Nice to see him improve that part of Lake Street.
Every time.
If we'd had used them, because curb gutter sidewalk.
Okay. Let's have a call to order, roll call for the Planning Commission.
Ernest Franco. Here. Darlene Boyd.
Here.
Scott Friel.
Here.
David Banderas.
Here.
Shirley Brewer.
Here. Okay, so all present. Any public comments? Anybody with any public comments? Don't see anybody up there. How about informal project reviews? Anybody with any informal project reviews? Okay, Mr. Todd.
I just thought I'd bring this, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Todd Kennedy, city staff, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention because this was talked about before, I think it was during my first meeting here since I joined the city. It's about food carts, coffee cart, food cart, and I was able to discover some information out of the city code that talks about these types of businesses. Let me pass it around.
Oh, we have something?
Yeah. It was something I just discovered recently.
Oh, great.
And the reason why I wanted to bring this in is this is related as like a first step to a new proposed business that may be going in downtown. Probably near either at 404 3rd Street or 406 3rd Street. One of those places right in there. It's the old blacksmith shop in there. And it's either that place or another place located downtown. It would be a new smoothie shop. And the business owners, who I've been in contact with already several times already, they like to start off with something small. And I did provide them a copy of this information. And because we did talk about the coffee cart, I know that kind of raised maybe some concern or some questions, I think, earlier on. But I wanted to bring this to the commission's attention that these folks may be coming in for a business license. Before then, we need to make sure that they meet the provisions in this document here. And what that includes is an agreement with a customer from a store or a fixed place of business or distribution at the bottom of item A right there, the last sentence of item A. So anyway, but these folks, what they like to do is do like a food cart, like a push cart for when you see some of the people that sell ice cream bars, all that, and you hear the chimes and all that, something along those lines. And it can be done like on a street corner or certain areas of town, but the policy is, or the way we would stand as staff, is that you need to make sure you have permission from those business owners / property owners, and fixed base or fixed place of business or distribution. So we need to have that kind of documentation that they have permission to operate there. And if they don't have that, then they can't operate there. It's that simple. So anyway, I wanted to bring this to the commission's attention to see if that would be okay. Would you like us to hold off on this and maybe look at our codes even further, or wait till we have an application and then proceed further? That's why I just wanted to kind of do like a preliminary discussion at this time.
Okay. This also gets into the food truck business we had questions about too. Okay.
Basically, these applicants at this point, like I said, they like to start off with something small, kind of introduce themselves to the community. This is what they sell. This is what we have. And at some point, they like to,
But they have a location that they're going to be working out of, is what you're saying?
They have a location in mind. They just haven't moved on it yet.
Okay.
So they like to start off small and work their way up. That's the information that staff has received.
So they want to start with this and then possibly get the other location.
That's the idea. That's the impression that staff has at this time.
I think that's two separate things.
Yes, I was going to say, that's...
They're not related, because unless they have the lease on the property,
Yeah.
say, hey, we're doing great, let's move in, because they have the lease.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hey, we're doing great, we'll just keep doing this.
Yes, they are. Thank you.
So to park a cart in front of a shop, you need permission from the shop owner or the property owner?
Based on the way it is right here, the way the code reads is with a customer from a store or fixed place of business or distribution. So that, to me, when you open that up, it could be either property owner or the tenant right there. Okay. Either one.
So it could be the tenant.
Yeah.
You might want to change the language on this.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to go through the...
Yes.
That's going to go through the council and all that other fun stuff.
Yes.
So what this is saying here, unless these folks get permission to park in front of a business, they can't do it.
That's correct. Yeah.
So this includes the state park too?
That includes the state park, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I actually went over and I spoke to the chief ranger, our head ranger over here at the state park, and actually, in order to operate there, the way I was told, is you need to get on the state park's list, a list of vendors, I think they called it, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering the names right. You need to get on them first, and that needs to go through the state up in Sacramento, and then you get decided upon. You just can't park there because the state will say no. And right up against the corner of the Mission right there, we walk the site together, and if you're away from the state park's property on the other side of the parcel line, let's just say, right there on the sidewalk, then it's up to the Mission. And the Mission has the authority to say yay or nay to that. And if it's like this, if it's okay with them, then it's okay with the city,
So with every station or parking, it will have to be permitted?
It will have to get permission.
Yeah, so if you don't get a permission for one or two stores, if you get 3 stores or businesses to go along with this, you would need one permit for all 3 stores? Or do you need a permit for every?
I think not necessarily a permit. We're looking for more permission from them. Yeah, it could be written permission, it could be an email, something like that. So
that would be part of the permitting process?
Exactly.
And that's if you're going to set up shop there.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. With each business that you're going to partner with, would you need a separate permit for each one or one permit for all?
The way I'm reading this, the way I'm understanding is that you'll need to have, you get one business license.
Right.
That's basically the permit that's issued from the city.
Right.
But you'll need multiple multiple memos of permission or understanding from wherever they're going to be located. Yeah, because basically it's the way to track where these places are going to be operating out of and all that, because, that way.
Well, there's something else coming up here. If I'm going to be parking in front of your shop, that means I'm setting up shop. But a push cart, theoretically, is you keep moving. And all these guys who are selling ice cream or tomatoes, whatever it is, they're constantly moving through the streets. So there's no one place where you can say, well, you can't be there. Hey, I just passed by. So we have this. Do we want to have somebody setting up shop on a sidewalk, regardless of whose business it is? If he's blocking off the traffic, if he's making it less than an ADA accountability, these are all things we need to look into. But
so it's either a stationary spot or a strolling spot, or a strolling system.
Yeah, see, and it sounds to me like they want to set up shop to show that they're doing good, and then they'll go look for a place to, permanent. But hey, there's no rent when you're on a city property. This is an economic advantage over every other,
business that's there.
Brick and mortar building.
And it's also taken a big thing that everybody squawks about the most, a parking space.
Oh, would he be in it? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have a cart parked in front of building X, it takes a parking space out of the
now if you just had the push cart, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
But see, it sounds to me like we're setting up shop. I haven't thought about the parking spaces. And just doing business from a food truck, basically.
Yeah.
It's not a push cart, it's a food truck.
Yeah, this is a hand pushed.
How big is this cart?
The way they...
Is it on a truck? Is it a motorized vehicle?
It actually sounds like it'd be more of a manual thing based on the information I was able to get. That's the determination or the...
So you don't know whether it's actually motorized?
Yeah, I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I would suggest staff would get more information on this thing, because if we need to change the city policy or push for an ordinance amendment, we should have that ahead of time. But the key thing is, do you want to have your parking spaces taken up with the food truck? This isn't a hand truck operation. Hand truck is when you keep pushing and you don't stop.
Yeah.
In fact, most of them just go down the middle of the street. It's like the good humor man,
Yes.
Everybody runs out and gets something.
Do we know of any other communities that are doing this locally?
I know to answer your question, Madam Chair, through you to the Commissioner.
Excuse me, Todd, just answer the question.
What's that?
Just skip the formality.
Okay. I'm just bringing my...
We give you permission to skip the formality.
I'm just using my previous experience, so anyway, sorry. To answer your question, I'll have to look into it because I know the city of Gilroy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll have to check in, but I think the city of Gilroy, I see them all the time over there, and you always hear them all the time, so I could check in to see how they do things over there and how they permit them, what type of business license policy do they have, and so forth.
And permission.
Yeah, the other thing too is, look at the positive side. I would think that's another means of advertisement for the city itself or the district. Going around and the person is a walking tour guide or the item itself.
Walking billboard or walking?
Or a walking billboard or tourist. Where's the bakery? Oh, it's right down here. Or by the way, on the way, don't forget to stop at the cafe and.
Yeah, but you're assuming that person's going to actually give that information up.
Well,
we're going to make them plaster
we can introduce that into.
And then we get into some other ordinance probably.
Vehicle, right?
I would suggest that in one place you might check with the League of California Cities and ask them for ordinances of other cities that already have them.
And what about insurances?
Liability.
Right.
Liability.
Well, it's obvious somebody thought about it sometime down the line in San Juan because it's right there and it's pretty black and white.
We had similar businesses.
I think we're not dealing with much more sophisticated situations than just a push cart. Actually, I think this is a food truck.
It's a food truck. Yeah, you're selling food out of it, right? So.
No, what I mean, a bona fide food truck.
With a motor.
Yeah, it would be nice to see what they're planning.
But before we get them, let's get some background. And like I said, the league is one place that they do have, because I've called in there and they just send you a bunch of ordinances. And also the planner's book of lists on the OPR.
All right.
Next.
All right. Yeah, we're trying to keep one step ahead of the guys, huh?
Liability. Okay. A lot of notes on this one. Okay. Thank you for that interesting. Any other informal project reviews? Okay, let's look at the action items. Shall we approve the affidavit of posting agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Let's look at the discussion items. Review and discuss a city-initiated general, I have a 7R here. Is that something? Plan and zoning amendment for 4 parcels located on Franklin Street. And this is over there, kitty corner from the state park, right?
Across the street from the fault line.
Into Franklin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 11 Franklin Street, 10 Franklin Street, 17 Franklin Street for zoning and redesignation from public facility to mixed use. And this was the parcel that was mistakenly changed in the general plan, right?
The group of parcels,
Yeah,
Madam
the
Chair.
group of parcels, yes.
We're talking, in this part of it, this is kind of like the first wave that I'm bringing forward here, or staff is part of the general plan review, amendment, update type, the thing that we were talking about last month. And this is the first wave. This is a discussion item because as of right now, staff has not received an application for a major alteration that is required for the fault line property, because of its current state. It's new construction, not only demolition, but it's new construction and internal improvements to get the building into proper operating building codes and fire codes. Anyway, so we're still waiting for that. However, based on discussion internally with the applicants, they appear to be agreeable to that, and they're working on a architectural historian's report.
Right.
That's what the architect has stated to us. So we are waiting for that, but I still wanted to keep the commission in the loop that this is what's going on, and this zoning amendment would affect up to 4 parcels.
Right.
There's 2 parcels on the fault line, the one parcel where the Lavadino house next door, and Mr. Neubauer's property across the street at 10 Franklin. The interesting thing, and this is going to be one of the conditions of approval I'll be pushing forward on this one when this thing gets going, is that if you take a look at the parcel map in your packet, parcels 6 and 7 need to be merged, because the way the garage was, it currently is, with its footprint, the way it'd be proposed to be reconstructed, is that it would be encroaching across that parcel line into parcel number 7. That's not a good thing to do, especially from a building code's perspective. So by merging the parcels, that problem would basically go away. And also, it would provide more room for 11 Franklin, to operate. And also, not to mention mixed use, and that's why I included, I think further down in your packets, I want to include copies of the zoning codes in there. So that way you can see firsthand public facility, PF zone, and MU zone in there. Allowed pallet of uses and the development standards. One of the things I wanted to point out, under mixed use, let me make sure I understand this stuff correctly. On page, I don't have page numbers, 8 of 9, as you make your way through the zoning code sections, there's the footnote number 10 right there. And this is where the mixed use has a little bit of flexibility. And with this new zone change, we could put stuff that was previously out of compliance into compliance.
Okay, you're talking about this chart here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then do you see like the footnote number 10 right there? On the next page. Okay, footnote number 10 right there. This applies to the mixed-use zoning. 10% of the depth of the lot, or 10 feet, whichever is less. Planning Commission may allow deviations of the setback based upon individual project, site plan, and building layouts. So which translates to that ultimately when this comes forward, with asking for the commission's input and asking for, commission's recommendation based on, staff recommendation, that whatever setbacks are there could be implemented as part of that site. Right there, and that way it can all be decided upon. Because the way the record is showing, the garage has been there for a long time, the Fault Line Restaurant's been there for a long time, as well as the Lavanino House. Also, when Mr. Neubauer's property across the street, when that big building was approved, I think it was built, the only find is a building permit right in there. So basically, we can have some deviation, and we can allow a little flexibility.
We're talking two different zonings though. We're going from a R1 and then we have a business. So we're going to have is that going to be, where the fault line is that going to be deemed under like a commercial zoning? So we're going to have a little cut out for commercial or?
Actually mixed use. The mixed use is going to cover all 4 of those parcels. That's what the proposal is. Mixed use allows restaurants.
But why would you have mixed use at the Lavaroni?
At the Lavanino House?
House, yeah, it's a residence.
It's a residence.
It is a residence, and that's the thing. It was previously zoned mixed use, and I believe that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this in. Residential uses are allowed. Yeah. So that was the whole thing why I wanted to keep it. I think it's multifamily residence, for the property across the street and the Lavanino House. So residential properties, I don't know if it's single family. I want to be sure about that.
It's a single-family unit.
Single-family dwellings? Okay. Yeah.
They may have an outbuilding in the back,
They do.
and I don't know if they're renting that. It could, I guess.
Secondary units are allowed by conditional use in the mixed use.
The question I have is that it seems like from the old general plan to the new general plan, if everything was today as it was in the old general plan, we wouldn't have an issue with this at all except for the lots zoning, the alignment and what have you. So what I'd like to ask is, what document does the city have that designates that these lots went from mixed use to
Public land.
public facility?
Yeah.
What documents gave us instructions to change it?
The one I could find is based on the resolution that approved the general plan as it is right now.
Right.
That's
So
what I
you're
could find.
saying they're just, I think what happened here, I think they looked at the new map and said, okay, and they forgot to look at these 2 lots and designate them as they were. Because I don't think, as I recall, I don't think there was any instruction in the new general plan that says, oh, you're going to have to change these, nor was there any motion made by the Planning Commission to the City Council that these should be changed. So if there is no document I would suggest that this was a mistake, whoever made the map up.
That's what, staff is, able to determine. However, I think from a logical point of view, because when you look at the map, the general plan map in your packets, you see State Park and the Mission over here, you see the soccer fields over here in the State Park, and they decided to just, cover it all.
They just covered it all.
I mean, I think...
There's multiple mistakes on this.
Yeah.
Multiple.
So, but I think if we don't have, a motion should be made that it should go back. We should change the map.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to say that we should have.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of dealing with now, we have to get the city council has to get involved, because we are doing another change to the general plan.
See, if they were asking, they would have to pay.
Yes.
So the city is saying, but...
Well, I'm asking the city council to show me the document that says that should be changed to facility.
Well, they did. They showed you that map right there, and unfortunately, somebody missed that little dot right there, and that was just...
But I want to see the document that says to make that change on that map.
Yeah, the general plan was adopted.
Yeah, the general plan was
The general
adopted.
plan was adopted.
But you have the right, we have the right to amend it so many times a year.
Yes, but...
And we have to give all the reasons, et cetera, environmental review, whatever it takes.
Right.
But it's just that,
And these property owners shouldn't get dinged
No.
because
we could wipe out the fault line in a minute.
Yes.
Just leave it there non-conforming and say, you can't do this, you can't do that. But if that isn't what we want to do, then we have to figure what it's going to take to protect it.
Right, I agree with you. Okay.
So this is just, like I said, this is an FYI information just to show you that we're moving forward, but we're awaiting information, applications from the fault line applicants at this time.
With the historic review and...
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Okay.
Is what's happening right now putting a stop to what's going on there physically? Are they waiting for us to make a decision before they can move forward and as far as
Yes, they are.
doing the restoration?
They are, but we're awaiting their application, though.
Is there any way we can temporarily allow them to do certain things? Because time is money.
Yeah, no, I understand, and, we do have, that's one of the things we're talking about. They've already done some work, without permits, but it's actually, brickwork and stuff like that doesn't require permits, though. Let me just state that for the record. But in terms of allowing the reconstruction of the garage to take place, we do need the proper applications to be turned in, with the proper historic architectural report. We do need that information. And the applicant understands it, and from the best of staff's knowledge, they're moving forward with it.
Okay.
So, and I can follow up with them in the morning and see where they are.
That would be good.
I did speak with one of the representatives of the party, and they understand. So I think myself and my higher-ups were all been in contact with them saying the same thing.
Okay.
I did get a written statement from the property owner across the street at 10 Franklin saying that based on this new zone change, to move it back into mixed use, you have my permission to move forward.
He's okay with
Talking
it?
about
He is.
Mr. Newbauer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And how about the folks that own the
Lavanino House?
Lavanino House.
So far, I've not heard back from them. I don't have their contact information.
I don't even know if they know yet, do they?
Yeah, I'd like them to know about it.
Public notices will go out
Okay.
for all the public hearings.
Yeah, before we
But
change.
this is just discussion stage,
Okay.
or information stage for us.
Yes.
Sadly, though, one thing I want to point out, the public facility zone, as I'm sure as you're able to see in your packets here, it doesn't allow restaurants, and there's a lot of things that it doesn't call out. It's really geared. It's a zone geared more towards state parks, museums, communication facilities, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it should have never been.
Yeah, that shouldn't
That
have
was a
been in there,
boo-boo. Yep,
among our others. Okay.
we'll fix it.
Okay, sounds like, yes, please move forward with following up with all those folks. That would be great. Okay, item B, report from planner on current and upcoming projects.
Time for the foldout.
Yes, back to the foldout. I love this. Now, is this posted on the website?
We can,
Updated?
as far as I know, it's not on the website, but we can do that.
I would like to keep it updated on the website, so if people have questions, I can send them right there.
Yeah.
And I can say, if you want to know what's going on, here it is. And I think this should also be advertised on Facebook.
Well, that might fall under certain laws. That would be something we have to go through our attorney on that.
Okay, well,
Social
we'll
media
ask her.
wasn't quite covered under the California Constitution when it was written.
No, well, wait, what, Scott? They can see the forehead. Okay.
Not that I've read it or anything.
You haven't?
Oh, Scott, I was telling you. Okay, so anything that we should know about that has changed from the last?
Pretty much, it's just like continuous activity, continues on these projects. We just document them, whether it be in the issues or the comments section. Right now, we added a few things in there since last meeting, and keep in mind, since this was put in the packet, there's, I think, a couple of things have been added in there. Let's see, did I put any typos? I hope not.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, if I can turn your attention over to the back page under new developments. D'Ambrosia, or better known as Hillside Vistas. Staff did have a meeting with them. Myself and my city manager and the city manager did meet with them. They anticipate to restart the project and to continue to finish it out. They have already been approved, not only the tentative map, but the final map that allows 8 parcels to be built on. Permits have been issued, but it doesn't look like any construction took place, so those permits have now been expired, so they need to start over. They would like to take the tentative map and then do a new final map to build out or properly subdivide the remainder, so that means this becomes a 27-lot subdivision. So we met with them.
Can we cut it back? What? Wasn't it originally 27?
It was more, it was like 35.
And we cut it down?
It was 80.
Yeah, it came down to 20.
Oh, my.
And then instead of I think the first phase is the 3rd Street and a roundabout.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is, because that's...
And I think those are duplexes.
Vista on board.
2-story duplexes.
Okay. On that project, you guys probably know this because it's right under the sewer and they're going to smell it. Was there any type of language in the approval basically saying that whoever buys these condos don't have the right to come into City Hall every 3 minutes and complain about living under a sewer?
It was a condition, I think, wasn't we put it on the map?
I live
It has to be a
across the street
disclosure.
from it, a few blocks, but downwind. And recently, I would say within the last 10, 15 years, it's not been a problem.
You can smell it.
Now, I don't
You can
know,
smell it in front of
I don't know about 400 or 500 feet from it, or 300 feet, or 200 feet.
Was there some, that's kind of
That was discussed, yeah.
different than, was there
It had to be clearly marked, whether it was in the deeds or what.
in the deeds?
Yeah, but they have to be told.
Full disclosure.
So
that
we're talking about
you-
disclosure.
Full disclosure on it, you're,
I mean, it would normally be a real estate thing, but I think, having dealt with a couple of problems in the past, having a deed restriction and also having it on the map.
Okay.
So that should be a part. that should be
Deed
noted.
restriction.
I think that was original. I think you, if I remember right, you had something in writing on something similar to
But
that.
we've been to 2 or 3 different variations of, before we go for the final, I would say that we make sure that these things are in effect.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. We need to make sure, since those permits
Before.
expired,
Because we
that
don't
the new
need,
permits aren't issued and something is forgotten from all the work that they went through in the past.
Yeah.
And actually, that was one of the, if I could just comment on that,
Sure.
if I may. During our meeting when we had with them, we actually did talk about that aspect because they're right next door to the facility. And from what we were told, or actually from what was discussed based on, the city's efforts with the sewer treatment plant, is that if it's running at, not at full capacity, but at maximum efficiency and all that, when it's constantly operating and it's clear and so forth, it doesn't sound like there's any smell or anything like that. So I think we just need to make sure we have that, it's proven, and, at the meantime, at the intervening time, the sewage treatment plant's being worked on. That's what I understand, and I know that's being spearheaded by the city manager.
The city manager.
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't want, because something got missed 5 years from now, 5 people get together, 5 NIMBYs that just showed up, and they sue the city for $1 billion, because all of a sudden it smells like poo-poo behind their house. Well, there is poo-poo behind your house, So just, it's like complaining when you move in next to an airport. I mean,
Yes, what? There's noise?
yeah.
Well, you might have that problem when new owners come in too.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
I'm not talking about any of that. We know what it's like, but yeah, I don't.
We know what it's like, but we want to make sure that anybody that owns
Yeah.
these properties
Yeah, I agree.
know what it's like.
Yeah, this way they can go and talk to their neighbors and say, hey, what's it really like?
Yeah.
Doing some homework ahead.
So noted.
And it's hit.
Let me, when this thing comes, because keep in mind, there's still some more entitlement this has to go through to finish it out for the final map process for full build-out, so this stuff can be definitely put as conditions of approval, or at least addressed, at the very least.
Okay.
So I think we might be seeing this project come in again, and that's, right now, we already have the final map, that's, 8 lots, they need to go through the permitting process, but to finish it out, it needs to go through another final map process.
So what you're saying too is we're probably going to have to renew their permits, right?
That's what it looks like, yes. We have copies of the permits, I was able to discover that in the files, but they're pretty much no good anymore.
Okay.
They've already been, issued, but they never built on them, so that means they expired.
This project came before you guys a long time ago.
Yeah, and if the code has changed,
Yeah.
they have to comply with the new
New
codes.
code and...
Because there's no permits once they expire. There's nothing to renew.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, I understand though that I think, I'll have to go back and look at the dates, but I'm pretty sure, I think the permits were issued back in the fall of 2016. So it's actually within the last couple of years, I think, is when it got finished up. But I think, much to Commissioner Franco's point, is I think it was started way back when.
Well, I want to look at the impact fees too.
Yeah.
Those have changed. Okay. Casa Rosa question. Was there a red tag, or was that building red tagged?
Yes.
Sticker on the front of the building?
Red tag has been issued, yes.
Is the sticker still there?
As far as I know, we've had some issues with that. They've been taken down. I think someone went out there and pulled it off, from what I was told.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's illegal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think we should start tracking the Chalmer property?
So, hold on.
Well, hang on, let's...
Time out here.
We're doing the Casa Rosa right now.
So Casa Rosa, red tagged, stickers are on it, stickers have been removed, but we don't know who or whom has done it. Okay.
However, can I just make a comment about
If
Casa
we
Rosa?
find out a realtor did that, can we revoke their business license and have that realtor go somewhere else? Is that a possibility?
That's a question I can ask. I can find out. I
Yes,
don't know
could you
that-
find out for us? We would love it.
Let's see, let me see this. But also, can I just say something about Casa Rosa right now?
Yes.
Sure.
Staff does have a meeting scheduled with the current owners by the end of the month to discuss the project and to figure out some information, and also to discuss next steps in the process to get it hopefully preferably finished up. Or I should say...
Cleared up.
Cleared up, yeah.
Yes,
I'm trying to think of the word.
Cleared up.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of us want to see those folks fail. I mean, we want to see them, do good in the project, but it's just...
We supported them all the way through.
As far as I know, it's going to be the same owners.
I mean, every day that thing's exposed, it's damaging
Yeah.
some old stuff.
Yes.
So this is going to be another...
Staff also, our building
demolition
inspection,
inspect.
our building inspection staff did make an inspection out there, and
Okay.
there are some concerning things about the second story and the outside walls and all that, so,
And the dangerous balcony.
right.
Okay.
So we anticipate to meet with them by the end of the month. I just want to state this, so that way the commission knows about it, and we should be reporting back to you with further information.
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else that we need to know that... Okay, David, you had a question?
Yeah, what about the Chalmer property? Should we start tracking that to see where we go with it?
Yes, we should put that on here.
Which one is that?
That was the one...
The Chalmer, the one with the old building across on the...
Oh, McKelvey?
McKelvey.
Oh, yes. Yeah, actually, wait, did I even put that on here?
No, I don't think so.
building.
Okay, let me put that on here.
And I got another question too. I noticed that there's been a lot of activity of that building that's next door to the Valero gas station.
Yes.
Yes.
So is that a new project or development going in there, or? They're not across the street.
Okay,
This is right next to the gas station.
I think they painted.
The property next to it.
okay.
The long building.
There's a real long building there. There used to be...
It used to be a
there
ceramic
That used to be originally a lumber yard.
Okay.
It used to be a Columber lumber yard or something like
Was that
that.
a pottery shop?
Pottery.
Lumber yard. Grandpa's lumber yard was on Fifth Street.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. Make sure we clear that.
Okay, but it used to be a lumber yard. It was Hayward, I think.
You just want us to look in to see what kind of activities?
Well, I saw a lot of activity going on in there. Just wondered if we have permits for that, or what's going on.
Myself, on the planning side, I have not reviewed anything, I've not dealt with anyone. However, what I can do is I can check in with Tim and our building
Because
divisions.
that's older than 45 years, right?
That's an old building.
Yeah, it looks like,
It used to be a lumber yard.
the property got cleaned up, and then it gets fenced, and then it looks like somebody's living in the back. I don't know if they're living in a
Yeah.
vehicle or in a structure.
And the interesting thing is I drive by there every day, because that's on my route to and from home, and, I've seen some activity out there myself. I mean, it just looks like people are coming and going, some's just, but
Do you need a permit for a fence?
as far as I know, fences do not require permits if they're under 6 feet high.
Under 6 feet?
Yeah.
And setbacks appropriate.
Anything above 6 feet. Is there a maximum height for fences?
As far as I know, I believe it's supposed to be maximum 6 feet, but let me double check that for you.
I had somebody ask me about a fence on Sixth Street.
Okay?
That's
Yeah.
more like a wall.
If I may,
Well,
it's 3 feet in front of a house.
3 feet in front?
3 feet in front
Okay.
of a house.
If it's in the front.
6 feet is for behind the house. So that fence is completely out of compliance.
I'm just worried about that.
Yeah.
I've had a couple phone call complaints, and I'm like, dude, I can't.
You don't know.
I'll just relay it,
No, I understand, but I think I know
Well,
which
that's
one you're...
Todd is what you're supposed to say.
Yeah,
No, they asked.
yeah.
We'll fix it.
I think I know which property you're referring to, and it's,
You can't miss it.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I've seen pictures of it.
Great looking wall, but just checking. I just, like I said, I'm relaying, I'm the, what is the bearer, the messenger, don't cut my head
At
off.
some point, it becomes a structure, and it has to be engineered or permits, because the wind in this area takes
Yeah.
anything out.
I'm gonna have to measure my neighbor's fence because they put a new one in. It might be over 7 feet, I don't know. I mean, it's there, and I don't know why it's there, but it's there.
All right.
Yeah, if you hold the front yard setback, you can put a 6-footer up. Like, or at the front yard setback, you can put 6 foot.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes, you may.
When you make any changes to this chart, if you could maybe do it in red or italics or whatever to bring attention to what you've changed or added.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that possible?
we can see what we can do, because remember, on the bottom of the sheet right here, on the lower right-hand corner, you can see when it was printed.
Right.
So the thing about this, it's kind of like something that we do ask the commissioners to keep, so that we can see how things have changed, by date and everything. So every packet, every meeting, you're going to have a new one of
But I
these.
think what she's saying for us to catch what has been changed, if you change the font color with what is new, what's the new news on each of these things?
We can see what we can do to kind of play with it a little bit.
I think that's going to be an imposition.
Because, the thing is, though, I mean, it's like we want to keep it going and keep it
Yes.
like the text up to speed and all that. So maybe, okay, I think I see what you're saying, because
Or highlighted.
we turn these things in on a
Anything that
weekly
differentiates
basis. Yeah, we turn these things out on a weekly basis to our city manager, so these things are changing every week.
Well, you only
With
have to change the font color.
No, but there's a lot of work involved in keeping it, doing something like that. This way, they just put the new one in, take anything out.
I just reviewed the
And they
last
just
one.
keep putting it out.
And we can always give you an update every time we meet, too,
Okay.
and just say, hey, this one's coming down, and so forth, or, this one's changing, whatever the case may be.
I'd rather them spend more time on the Chalmer house, that type of thing. I'm
Yeah.
glad we've got this,
Yes,
but I don't want to have them doing extra work that
Yeah, I don't
be
either.
done someplace else.
Well, they have to type it in, so
They have to type it in.
they have to type it in anyhow. If you could just downsize it or color it or something, it would just a suggestion, it's not a
Let me see what we can do.
life-changing thing.
Let me see what we can
Thank you.
do there, Commissioner Butler.
So we finished with your report then?
Let's see, I think everything is pretty much straightforward, but if, like I said, hopefully we'll have a good report, positive news. I mean, my fingers are crossed about Casa Rosa. Also, to let the commission know, the brewery project, the big red building over here on Alameda, I do have a meeting with them tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I do have a meeting with them tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's the original, so the original folks that built it are the owners?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Okay.
Because there seems to be some activity and movement on that project and all, so it sounds like things may have been squared away on their end and all that, so they want to move forward with it.
Good.
Because I've actually spoken with them several times over the last several weeks.
Yes. Yes, it would. Okay, so we can move on to discussion item D now. Review and discuss staff report on 3rd Street widening and roundabouts, event center and infrastructure as requested by commission.
Okay. Madam Chair, I think this is based on the discussion that you and I, like we may have had, I think before. I think it was requested by the commission to bring an update to, about the 3rd Street widening. It was discussed, let's see what I want to do with my notes.
What happened to C?
Oh.
He jumped over to D.
Strategic Planning Committee report?
What happened to C?
No, last month I
I thought
asked,
that's what he just gave us.
No, last month
I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
Strategic Planning Committee
Okay.
report.
last month I asked, I don't care what they're doing, but I want to know how they fit in the hierarchy of what does the planning commission do and what do they do, so that we're not...
Okay, I happened to attend the last Strategic Planning Committee, and that question did come up in some of their discussion, and so it's something that we're going to look at too.
It's beyond them now. I want to hear it from staff, not
Okay.
from council.
So is there a report for strategic planning? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can go ahead and, give
It's worded wrong, but I mean, I don't know what you mean.
Oh, okay, let's see.
Should have been status.
Let's see, did I say the status report? Thanks, okay. Let's see, oh, wait, there's my agenda. I've just been writing notes all over the place on this. Okay. Okay, yeah, if I could just go ahead and just jump on in to what the commissioner's saying on this. Yes, I was there in attendance at the Strategic Planning Committee, and from what I was able to understand, to answer the question, the bylaws are saying that it's really an arm of the city council. I think anything that would be approved or anything like that per the Strategic Planning Committee, we can always take it to the Planning Commission as an FYI item. But then I think it gets okayed, by the Strategic Planning Committee, whatever that project is, and then we get the okay from council after that's over. That's the way I've been
Now,
understanding.
this is what they're saying. What does the city attorney say? Because see, what's happening is the planning commission going to be bypassed on issues. I mean, it shouldn't be the fact that they don't want us to set it down here because we report to the council.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You guys exist because this council says you can be there. The planning commission should, because state law says the council will appoint us. So I just I've never been made clear as to where they fit in the hierarchy. Like I said, if they're going to bypass us, we don't need a planning commission.
No, they're
Let
not.
them deal with
They're
state.
not, nothing they do is code or law. It's just, they're kind of a research group for the city council.
But they're trying to implement.
But
No, they're not. They're not trying to implement
Public art
anything.
project.
What's
They
that?
just implemented a public art project, and we have discovered we have no public art policy. And is that something that Planning Commission should be reviewing? So, that, and the public art, thing has to do...
Are you sure that was done
Yes,
and it went to the council?
yes.
Okay.
That's what I mean, we need to find out what they can bypass us on and what has to come to the commission. I want to know where do we fit. We need a definition, and not from their staff talking about it. We need a definition and say, hey, this is the name of the game.
Okay, understood. Because, like I said, I mean, and,
Going to
Commissioner
their
Boyd,
meeting.
correct me if I'm wrong on this, but yeah, because it was basically an arm off the city council, and it's like, because there was no mention of the planning commission in the bylaws
That's
after looking
right.
this over.
This is what the concern is.
That's what I'm saying, you don't go and talk to them, you go talk to the city attorney. Yeah, I truly want, support me folks if you want to, I want a full definition of where we sit in the hierarchy.
It's part of the general plan too.
But I just want to know,
Yeah, but I think
What are
it's
they-
right.
what can they do?
We need it defined.
That's what I'm
We need
saying,
it
start with the general
clearly-
plan, see where that's at.
Well, let's ask the
I
attorney
mean,
too.
it's supposed to be our
I want to,
constitution.
I mean, if they're going to have public hearings on implementing the general plan, oh, wait a minute, they don't have the authority to deal with the general plan.
What I can do is, let me check in with the city attorney, and then I can follow up with all of you on that, how we
Thank
fit
you.
in the hierarchy on that.
thank you.
Okay.
We would like to know. Yes, come on forward, please. Identify yourself.
That's actually not what I turned my speaker card in on. But as a member of the planning, the strategic planning committee, and on the subcommittee for agriculture, it has come up that there are things that should be run past the planning commission.
Because it's
I
land
actually
use,
did
right?
not think that art project should, because it's temporary. It was run by the planning commission, as I understand, but because it's
Really?
temporary, personally, I didn't think that it needed to go to the planning commission. But once the subject came up and was discussed, and the idea of having a city policy on art is a good idea. And I'm not sure how this fits in, it bears further looking into, but I do know that there are things that have come up on the strategic planning committee that do seem to be things that should be run by the planning commission in some form, whether it's just an FYI or an actual vote, that are things that are being discussed by the planning commission.
Because it has to
Rarely is it anything, other than when the art came up, rarely is it anything other than ag and land use.
Yeah.
That subcommittee very much
Needs to come
have
here, yeah.
dovetail with the planning commission.
Would you state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry, Jolene Cosio, 181 Main Street. Oh, come on.
No,
Well, yeah, but the record.
The record.
We need the record.
She knows. Okay, Jolene Cosio, 181 Main Street. And correctly, you are saying that we report to the city council. We are appointed by the city council. But at the same time, there are issues that come up that probably should be discussed before the planning commission, in my opinion.
Well, we don't want probablys, we want a definition.
Yeah, no, I...
Clear definition is what we're asking for.
You can speak now? Yeah, okay.
Ms. Monk? Okay.
I agree with what's been said. I understand the Strategic Planning Committee was established to implement recommendations that are in the general plan. And if there are any recommendations that fall within the purview of the Planning Commission, they should be brought here first for recommendation to the City Council. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's an opinion. I want a stronger word than opinion.
Well, if the council made this decision and they implement it, how do we, so you're thinking there's a legality issue here?
Yeah, there is, because, if we're in charge, the planning commission is in charge of land use and city design things and all that kind of stuff, and if there's a project that comes up that they're implementing from the general plan that comes up, should be under our purview, I want it stated that we are the first body they've got to come to before they go to the city council.
See, I don't know that they can do public hearings, as we are required to do public hearings, full notification, adjacent properties, the whole thing.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's not as transparent.
but they don't have
But if certain things,
they do not have, they're not taking our place. If there's any land use changes, it still has to go before us, before it goes, we still have to see it.
And that's the thing. Let me just interject a little bit here, because the way the impression I have about the strategic planning committee, and since I'm staffing it, is that it really is focusing on the general plan itself. Projects and so forth, like actual physical development, and where the general plan is, that's where the planning commission is definitely, the main body right there. So I think the strategic planning committee is pretty specialized from the general plan's perspective, in that. So, I just want to make sure we're making the distinction and where it falls in. So anyway, but the hierarchy question is good. That's, definitely clears things up for me as well. And so like even all the subcommittees under the strategic planning committee and all things are dialed in with that. Then it takes back to the main board, the main committee when they meet, they make a vote or say, okay, we like this. Okay, staff, please put this on the city council agenda, accordingly, whatever it may be, So.
And we don't know anything about it.
Well, then it's up to the city council to shoot it to us. It's up to the city council to take the lead and shoot it to us.
We don't do projects, but if the city council sees fit that something we are working on ought to be run by the planning commission, I think that's how it is supposed to go. It's a hierarchy thing. We go to the city council, we say, we think that this should happen. They say, let's run that through our planning commission. That would be my feeling.
Makes sense to me.
It's like the direction they would give.
That's the way.
Yeah, but see, if they don't have a set of rules as to knowing what we are, what we do, what is state mandated, and they say, well, I don't think so. We don't need to go there. Wait a minute. I want to see it written.
I'd like to see it float.
Do we have a process in place that says that any city councilman gets an item and they have a list of things that they have to go by that determines whether it should go back to the planning commission? Do we have anything like that in the general plan or in the strategic planning?
Well, you'd be talking about municipal code and state codes.
Yeah,
the general plan.
Does the council know to say that, when to say that? And are we on board with that? In other words, how do we recognize something that should have come before us? And if we can recognize it, why doesn't the city council recognize it? If there's a hierarchy.
That's by having it, the rule of law.
And is that in the general plan, a distinctive process that says, okay, we've got all these different projects, and is it in the bylaws that says, hey, this has got to go before? We're going to have to ask city council to make sure.
But they're not projects.
They're not projects.
Well, whatever.
You guys, I think you're making more of this than it actually is. It's not. They're not projects. It's just they're taking sections of the general plan and saying, hey, remember we have to do this.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that. And it covers everything from health and safety to police and fire to land use to it's just a group of people saying, hey, kind of doing the research for the city council. Hey, this is what our general plan and the Muni Code says we have to do.
And this is what we want to do to satisfy that.
No, they don't say this is what we want to do. They're saying this is what has already been written.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? It's already in writing. It just we need to implement this.
Okay.
Or has it been implemented?
And folks, this might have already been stated before, but the way my experience has shown me is that you have your general plan, you have your zoning ordinance, and your general plan is like your guide to guide you, in this case, to 2035. And earlier in our meeting, we've talked about amendments that we'd like to see done, and there's some tweaks here and there that need to be taken care of and so forth. And your zoning ordinance is like your legal document to take you to that, and then making sure that we're following, the law, as local law to that vision of what the general plan is bringing us down the road. So I just want to make sure, I just thought I'd bring that out, just so like an FYI type thing. So, and the way I'm interpreting the strategic planning committee is that it's the committee of, of members of the community that are helping execute that general plan. And bringing it to it. So it's kind of like, a body that's like pushing us in that direction. So it's kind of like like more long-term thinking. But once again, we could definitely talk about the hierarchy and how they fit in and what projects would be going through planning commission and which wouldn't, that kind of thing.
I would like to see that, and I think there needs to be a flow chart that delineates, if it's this, then it goes here, if it's this, it goes there. So that when even the strategic planning committee is meeting, they can say, oh, but we need to go by the planning commission before we do this part of the general plan, because, I think it's going to give guidance to all of us to define that clearly. And I would like to see that defined clearly, so.
Especially for the council, because councils change.
Yeah, councils change and they aren't always familiar with and if you have a flow chart for everybody, then we're all on the same page. Just have a general flow chart for everybody. Okay, now, are we ready for D? Review and discuss staff report on 3rd Street widening and roundabouts, the event center, and infrastructure as requested by commission.
Did we do that?
Well, it had to do with 3rd Street widening.
Right. I think the wording in there might be a little off. I think staff report doesn't really may not come into play. But I'm just responding to this as requested, that 3rd Street widening and roundabouts. 3rd Street, I think, was talked about as part of not only Rancho Vista, but the Hillside Vistas project and all that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I just wanted to respond to the information I was able to gather at this point. From what I understand, that 3rd Street will have improvements done to it with both the Rancho Vista and now, as discussed with Hillside Vistas. Including those, sounds like there's some utility that's out there on 3rd Street. A couple of power poles out there. And I think those will be taken away, and I think Hillside Vistas has actually agreed to help us out with that, the D'Ambrosia development.
But then we could get PG&E involved in what you're saying.
I think that's get PG&E involved.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to be spearheading to help us take care of that.
Oh, thank you.
So I think that's moving forward, and they'll be tying into further roundabouts.
That's good.
That's what I can provide at this point.
That sounds good. Thank you. Okay.
Now, also, if I could just kind of jump ahead to the infrastructure point here, is that after going this over with my city manager, it was in the budget. I think in the budget, and I think it was all been approved, and I think it's being worked on, as far as I'm understanding.
Okay. And we're talking about the
Have
wells.
some public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Jolene Cosio.
Jolene Cosio, 181 Lang Street. I just want to speak in strong support of roundabouts. In case you haven't noticed, there's 3 new stop signs across the highway. Nobody's stopping at them. People don't stop at stop signs. Roundabouts slow traffic.
Yes,
I tell you what, when I first started hearing about roundabouts locally years ago, I was, oh my God, no, not like Belmont Shores in Southern California where I grew up. There were 4 lanes going around and around, and I was a brand new driver, and it was horrible.
But when are you going to get off?
Those are traffic circles. That's way different than a roundabout. Roundabouts are extremely effective. They're being used a lot. They slow traffic. Might even keep trucks out of our city.
Yes.
I would love to see more roundabouts. And I don't want to see these developments who agreed, because there's 2 developments at least, who agreed to put in roundabouts and who are now saying, oh, there's not room for a roundabout. Make room. Make it work. Roundabouts work. They're being used more and more. They're being used all over the world, and they are effective for slowing traffic, and we definitely need to slow traffic in a way that won't require police intervention to stop people who are not stopping at the stop signs, because we just have people running stop signs all over the city.
Okay, thank you very much, and I have heard the same thing at Planning Commission trainings, that roundabouts are the in thing now.
Yeah, the research Gilroy came up with was something like 60% safer.
60%? Wow, that's very significant.
We need one on the Alameda and 156.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to Caltrans about that.
All in favor?
Yeah.
And get Caltrans to pick up the garbage along the side of the road. That's what you do.
Commissioners, I have one area in here. I just want to make sure we're covering everything here. Nothing's being left out. Event center, was that anything of particular interest of anyone that we wanted to discuss?
That was that thing across the street, but they're gonna put the Formula One, they call that an event center.
Oh, they're calling it event center, the Formula
No,
One.
that's now a land trust thing.
Yeah,
that they're trying to
that
do.
makes-
Maybe that's where this came from.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
but there was also another talk about an event center being out on First Street across from Rancho Vista.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that,
That one.
yeah.
Really?
And I was just I think it's just kind of curious if anybody has come forward to say anything more about that.
As far as I know, in terms of Rancho Vista, we have,
No,
It's
no.
not part of
Across
Rancho,
the street.
across the
It
street.
is, hang on.
Leoza.
Where's your, what is it?
Leoza, or
Yes.
Loaiza,
Louisa, okay.
Yeah, they wanted to do
175 First Street. 975 First Street.
975, yeah.
I'll have to talk it over with them, because I've been working with them. We're actually awaiting, part of their application and their fees before we can move forward. They already have their CEQA document already done, but I understand they're kind of working with, parties on their end. But I could follow up to see what they're
Okay.
talking about with them.
Can you add that to your list?
It's actually already on there, it's already on the list.
Okay,
It
good.
doesn't say anything about an event center.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have anything filled in, so it says working on secret document.
Yeah, and then awaiting application fees.
I don't know, beats me.
The Laza parcel here, this is it?
Yeah. They just want to subdivide it, right?
Subdivided into 4 parcels. It's a minor subdivision.
If we're talking about this matrix, is there, kind of a long shot here, what about anything as far as the project goes?
Rezoning.
When it comes to cannabis? Because there's been a lot of talk, whether they're gonna have some kind of distribution here or not. If there is some kind of project that's being developed in the city, in dealing with that, maybe that needs to be tracked.
Absolutely.
Because that could mean a lot of revenue for the city.
Increased crime.
Let's wait till we can take that.
And if we have the right security in place, we shouldn't have to worry about increasing crime.
Okay,
Question on the Loiza project?
yes. Come forward, please. Yes, Jolene.
Jolene Cosio, 189 Line Street. I have a question on that parcel. I believe it may have been rezoned. When they put up that, the type of fence they had and the trees to kind of mask the chain link fence, they were allowed to do that because they were an agricultural property. If they do anything else with that parcel, they are not allowed to have that type of
It's an
fencing. They
R1.
have to have the same open plan that most of the city, except for the house on 6th Street.
But it's zoned R1. It has been rezoned for R1,
If it's been rezoned for R1, then that fence
including
needs to
my
come down.
property back there.
Because
That was all
only allowed
agriculture, is rezoned.
agricultural.
Not all of the property, but a portion of it, and that would be along the...
So what you're saying is that that fence has to come in compliance with a residential zoning?
Exactly.
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very good question.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Infrastructure as requested.
And since, and it's a good subject too, and since we have a walkable town, there are places that were developed lacking sidewalks
Yeah, I get asked.
and gutters.
Okay.
And recently, you might say. So there needs to be some look at that. We need to look at that too as well. Make sure our town is walkable and with proper walks.
Any new building has to have a sidewalk.
That, over the,
More ordinances.
I know, but over the years, that did not,
This place,
there are gaps.
I'm surprised you still got
It's
it
kind of interesting.
with all the planning that was done here.
How do we fill the gaps?
Can I-
To me, a property owner is a developer.
Project.
Okay, Commissioner Friels?
Infrastructure, we got a little section, infrastructure requested by, was there anything specific that you got on that? I had a couple questions.
Nothing specific, just an overview. When I talked to, when I talked to my higher-ups, it was just that it's already been, sounds like it's in the budget and things are moving forward. Sounds like, capital improvements are moving forward and all that. All I can speak is just generically on it, though. I can't go into details about it.
maybe I can ask this on my next round, but on the commission, on the stop signs on San Juan Hollister Road, I assume this is infrastructure. Were those stop signs part of the condition of approval for those projects?
Are you talking like at both ends of San Juan Hollister Road, down there, south of 156?
And the middle.
Yes, the new stop signs were put on, there are new stop signs on San Juan Hollister Road.
There's three.
There's three of them.
Okay.
Were those approved by the planning commission and the city council as part of the project itself, or do they put, because correct me if I'm wrong, the stop signs have to come before us, traffic reviews, all that kind of junk has to be done before you just put stop signs anywhere. And all of a sudden there's 3 stop signs. I mean, I get the fact that they want to slow traffic down there, but once again, we got to go back to following the rules. You know?
Let me look into that, because that's, yeah, that's, you know, I don't want to act surprised or anything like that, but let me take a drive down there and just see what it is and see how things got posted.
It's 3 stop signs.
Yeah, okay.
You know, all of a sudden, stop signs showed up.
All right.
Speed limit signs and stops, and the stop signs.
Yeah, speed limits, that has, I mean, unless it's part of the, unless it's in the, you know, the original agreement with Copperleaf and, you know, but what I read from it, I didn't see anything like that, so.
I don't remember
just
any
curious
discussion. It's part of the conditions.
Thank you.
The only thing that I see lacking too is the street names. I think they're generic names, and they should be San Juan names.
And yes, we've been approached by the Historic Society about renaming those, so
Good.
I would like to, at some point, put that on the agenda too.
Can we do, is that something we can do now that the project's been approved and all that stuff?
It's been documented, and I have it should be recorded somewhere, that they agreed to do that.
Okay.
They voiced an agreement to do that. So it's recorded somewhere that they were willing to do that. Change it from a generic name to a San Juan name. It could be Nyland Drive or whatever.
We have a
Or
Nyland.
Breen or whatever.
We have one of those.
Maderas?
Yeah. I'm just saying,
Well,
I'm an envelope.
Yeah, well, Vonda gave me a list. I told her to make a bigger list because we have another development going in that we might want to consider having
So,
more historic names.
San Juanish names.
Yes.
That'd be, I think the ones in.
You don't want to bomb away.
I think Rancho Vistas pretty much have been approved because I know they went to the Catanos and asked if it would be okay.
I think they
Actually
were.
did the due diligence there, but yeah, I'd be curious because I did read those and there were some,
Generic names,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know, Green something.
yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I could take a look at that and see what kind of documentation we could find about those street names, because actually there was some email correspondence that came to me just asking about the street names, and we're looking them over.
Yeah.
And then also getting back to the stop signs out there on Old San Juan Hollister Road. Yeah, see what's out
Right there in front of the Copperleaf,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
go across the Alameda, hang a left and
There they are.
there they are. All of a sudden stop signs appear.
That's
Like,
the
whoa,
limit sign.
because I almost ran one. I was like, what
Yeah.
the heck's that been?
I was watching.
Was I sideways?
Good.
All right, we'll take a look.
We have a question.
Yes, come on up, Ms. Moll.
I'm a member of the San Juan Bautista Historical Society, or I'm on the board. And yes, our board came up with a list of suggested names for the Copperleaf development. So I don't know what we need to do to make it happen, but maybe you can tell
Well, I
us.
handed it over to staff, and so I'm waiting. for-
Okay, yeah, before it's too late, yeah.
That's awesome. That question, did you,
And they're basically names of historic people, people
Yeah.
in the community.
is there repetition with like Hollister? Are there any names? I mean, is this something
To tell you the truth,
only
I
because we don't
don't,
want to confuse
yeah,
the 911 system, you know?
I guess we have a meeting on Thursday, so, I mean, I can raise
You can
that
answer
issue.
them. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. We would appreciate that from both ends. Okay. All right, anything else that we need to do for infrastructure? Do signs in general come under infrastructure? Because I do want the city hall sign looked into as well as the fire department sign, and I sent
Then they go
Michelle,
under,
a name of a sign maker that was recommended to me by Valerie Eglin.
Still got to do.
doesn't that go under Historical Review Board?
Yeah,
That's Historical Review Board.
Okay.
and there's still a bid process.
Yes, and there's still a bid process, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to comments?
Yep.
Planning commissioners, any more comments?
Nothing here.
You've said everything you need to, huh?
I saw that Brewery 25 did their soft opener, and I guess it was pretty successful, so happy to see that's in there. It looks good from the photos I saw. It looks like they did a nice job in that little, I have a feeling we'll probably see them again about maybe seating in front of it, I would guess, which would be, it's kind of a nice little courtyard.
It is, it's a nice courtyard. Zane, is you doing anything?
That's about all I can say on it, because my family's owns the building, so I'm happy to see that it's working, a business is working here.
Yes. Okay, anything else from planning commissioners? Okay, city planner. Go right to it.
You know what, there was one thing I forgot to mention in item 5A. I don't know if we can jump back, but
Nothing on the Energizer Bunny, by the way. I mean, so much energy.
We will not get him better.
I'm just tired of like, oh man, time just
I just want to make sure I'm covering this. This is all part of the general plan amendment, but one quick FYI is one of the things that came up, it was brought to my attention, is that the housing elements, somehow, I don't know how this happened, but it needs to be on the state records, the State Department of Housing and Community Development, if I'm saying the department correctly, and I don't think that information has made it there. However, I have been able to dig up some of the information in the housing element info, and I have reached out to the state, and actually they've been very helpful. And I'm actually began that process, so I'm trying to get that on. So hopefully by next meeting, I can just say that's all been resolved. Because I think we are kind of like overdue to put that in, so I just want to make sure we're
Like
there.
so many other things.
Yeah.
So, and the more information you get out there, especially of the state is just, I mean, it's constant, one law after another. And I know it's probably nearly impossible to keep up. I know it was when I was the fire chief here. It was just mind-blowing, and I finally got to the point where I go, I can't stress about this so much, but the transparency out there, and nobody can make things up. If it's there at ABC, red, white, and blue, that's from the state of California or through our muni codes or whatever. I mean, people can't make stuff up, and small towns, people like to make stuff up. So it's nice seeing that transparency out there, and that was the big push this last election, was transparency. So,
Yes.
Thank you.
That's why we're here.
Ask a question about the housing.
Yes, please, come forward.
We won't be able to discuss this.
Can't discuss it.
Okay, can't discuss it, but I have a question. Carabunk. Are they still issuing community development block grants, the Department of Housing and Community Development?
I'll have to take a look at that. I thought I saw that on their website, and I think it was like one of the building blocks or one of their links right there when I was going through their website. So I can ask that question when I talk to them tomorrow. I did leave phone messages as of today.
Because several years ago, when we finally did, have a housing element that passed muster, there was a committee of citizens, and we actually sat down with the planner and came up with a list of things that we were going to submit for community development block grant monies.
Good.
And we were totally flabbergasted that they totally passed us over and we never got a cent. So, I don't know if the money's dried up or if it's still out there.
No, it's still out there.
So, definitely something to look into because, we can definitely use some grant monies. And also, just on the subject of grant monies, if we do want to update our historic inventory, we should be submitting an application for a grant with the department, the Office of Historic Preservation, because we would need an expert to help guide us like we did with these earlier ones. I think the round just closed, but we could do it for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Call a public comment. We'll refer to this as public comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I have a question for you?
Yes, you go ahead.
How difficult would it be to show us our zoning map with only, and something about that size, with only the city limits? Not the proposed, the sphere of influence. I get the sphere of influence, but
Without that.
without that, I mean, this one doesn't even have it. This has the proposed.
You mean minus that, everything minus the sphere of influence?
Just the city limits.
Just the city limits?
Yeah.
Let me see what we can do. I know that's all been produced, like, before I arrived here, because all I could find is on a PDF format so far, like based on my search so far. So let me continue to dig and see what I can find and see if we can play with the maps.
The only reason I ask is if it's, because then it can probably be enlarged a little bit to where we can actually look to see some of these city limit lines that are running straight through people's property and dividing stuff, and that's just to kind of start clearing up boundaries and finding out. I mean, I don't know if some of these growers out here know that there's a line right through the middle of their
field.
Yeah. So
Is there, if I let me just respond to that, because that's actually part of this, the general plan project that we're undertaking together, and that's one of the things. I actually have been in close contact with our LAFCO planner, Bill. He's been very helpful to me, and we talked about this, is that the city limits, when you look at them even on the map right here.
Are we getting beyond the Brown Act?
Yeah.
no, yeah, probably.
Okay, we could bring it up at a later meeting, but
That's why I just asked if, if we don't need.
That'd be a good discussion item, city boundaries.
Yeah.
Thank you. City manager has no report, or unless you have something?
I wasn't provided a report from her, so no report, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
And Commissioner Friel seconds it, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. It's adjourned.
Okay.
See you next month.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem. August 7th is the meeting.